Morning starts with a fire and a pot. Yesterday's bread sits on a board. Someone stirs a thick soup from last night, adds water, and drops in whatever is on hand. Peas, beans, cabbage, leeks, an onion, maybe a bone for flavor. In the Middle Ages, most people ate like this. Bread and a stew, called pottage, were the daily pair. If you remember one thing, remember this. Bread filled the belly. Pottage carried the rest. Where you lived shaped your plate. Near the sea or a river, people ate more fish and shellfish. They smoked or dried the fish to make it last. On inland farms, people relied on grains, beans, peas, cabbage, turnips, and onions. In the north, ale was common, and bread could be wheat, rye, barley, or a mix. In the south, wine was common, and olive oil replaced butter or animal fat in many places. Towns near fields ate like the fields. Ports ate like the sea. Class mattered, but not in the simple movie way. Peasants did not live on crusts alone, and nobles did not feast every night. A peasant family aimed for steady, safe food. Bread, pottage, cheese, a little bacon, eggs when the hens were laying, garden greens in season, fruit from hedges, and ale. If a family had a cow or a goat, milk turned into butter or soft cheese. They rarely slaughtered a healthy cow. Milk over time was worth more than a single roast. In hard months, the pot did a lot of work stretching what they had. People in towns, craft workers, shopkeepers, ate much the same but had better access to markets. They could buy fresh bread, fish brought inland, and small amounts of spices. They also had more choices when one harvest failed, because trade routes could bring in food from somewhere else. Nobles had more of almost everything, especially meat. Big houses served beef, pork, and mutton, game like venison and boar. Many birds, from geese to peacocks when they wanted a show. They ate fish, even far from the coast, because they could pay to have it carried in. Spices, pepper, ginger, cinnamon, cloves, saffron were used because they were expensive and impressive, and because they taste good. They were not there to hide rotten meat. Good kitchens knew how to salt, smoke, and cool food for the time. Bread was the anchor of the medieval diet. In rich wheat areas, people ate white or light loaves. In colder or poorer regions, rye and barley were common. When wheat was short, bakers made mixed grain bread, sometimes called maslin. Many towns had rules to protect buyers from being cheated. The loaf had to be a promised size at a fair price. Bread was serious business because it was most people's main food. Pottage is the other half of the story. Think of it as what's in the pot. It could be thin and simple, peas, onions, herbs, or thick and rich, with bits of meat, bacon, or marrow bones when people could afford them. Some families kept a pot going day after day, adding to it as they found things, letting it simmer and grow. A good pottage kept you warm, used what the garden gave, and made a little meat to feed many mouths. Meat and fish show the gap between rich and poor most clearly. A peasant might keep a pig because pigs are cheaper to feed and can eat scraps. Bacon and lard gave flavor to the pot. Chickens gave eggs first. Meat came later. A noble table could have beef and mutton often, plus roast birds and fancy pies. In both rich and poor homes, fish mattered a lot. People ate fresh fish near water and preserved fish inland. Salted cod, dried stockfish, smoked herring. Rivers and ponds also mattered. Freshwater fish fed many people far from the sea. Religion shaped the menu. The church calendar marked feast days and fast days. On many days, Fridays and other times, people were expected to avoid meat from warm-blooded animals. Fish was allowed, so fish trade grew around these rules. Feast days brought bigger meals, meat roasts, pies, cheeses, and sweet dishes. Even poor families tried to mark big days with something special if they could. What did people drink? In the north, ale and beer were everyday drinks, often weaker than today and safer than some water sources. In the south, wine was common and could be watered for daily use. People did drink water, but quality was uneven, so mixing water into ale or wine was common. Milk was mostly for children or for turning into butter and cheese. How did they add flavor? Spices were expensive and used in small amounts by those who could pay. Everyday cooks relied on herbs, parsley, sage, thyme, mint, dill, and fennel, plus onions, garlic, vinegar, and something something called verjuice, a sour juice from unripe grapes or apples. Mustard shows up often and gave a sharp bite to rich dishes. Honey sweetened food before sugar became common. Later, sugar arrived as a luxury and then spread slowly with trade. Cooking methods were simple but effective. Spit roasting turned big joints over the fire. Hard work and hot work. Boiling and stewing were the daily default. It was the best way to make tough cuts, tender, and stretch food for a crowd. Baking needed a proper oven. Villages might share a communal oven for bread. Big houses had large ovens for bread, pies, and pastries. Preservation mattered all year. Salting, smoking, and drying kept meat and fish safe. In autumn, slaughtering season filled salt tubs and smokehouses to prepare for winter. Markets and fairs kept food moving. Weekly markets brought grain, vegetables, dairy, fish, and meat into town. Yearly fairs brought salt, dried fish, spices, and tools. Ports moved fish inland and grain out. Guilds and city rules tried to keep food honest. The right weight, the right quality, the right price. Long-distance trade did not flood peasant tables with pepper, but it changed the top end of cooking and, over time, trickled down. Street food existed too. In busy towns, you could buy hot pies, small fried fish, wafers, or a cup of warm spiced wine. Workers grabbed food at stalls between tasks. Not everyone cooked every meal at home. Many relied on a baker's oven or a cook shop when fuel or time ran short. Monasteries and convents had their own food rhythm. They kept fasts strictly, leaned on fish and vegetables, and grew big kitchen gardens with herbs, leeks, cabbages, and fruit trees. They baked bread, brewed ale, and handed out charity loaves and bowls of pottage at the gate. In hungry years, these doors mattered. Home gardens were common. Even small plots held onions, leeks, peas, beans, parsley, and a few medicinal plants. Apple and pear trees gave fruit for eating fresh and for drying. A good garden made the difference between a plain pot and a tasty one. Seasons ruled everything. Spring brought greens, eggs, and fresh milk. Summer offered fresh fish, fruit, and a wide variety of vegetables. Autumn was the busiest. Harvest, slaughter, new ale, hard cheeses, nuts, and apples. Winter leaned on what you had stored: salted meat, smoked fish, dried peas and beans, onions and turnips, and the last of the apples. A good year tasted different from a bad year. A wet summer or a cold spring could change the menu in every house. Hard years happened. Bad weather meant bad harvests. Grain prices rose. Poor families stretched bread with other grains and ate more peas and beans for protein. Parish relief and charity also mattered. Wealthy households could buy food from other regions. Poor ones often could not. This is one reason medieval people valued rules for bread size and price, because a fair loaf could be the difference between hunger and health. What did meals look like in real life? In a small house, breakfast might be a slice of bread, a mug of small ale, maybe a piece of cheese. Midday, the main meal, was pottage and bread, sometimes with a bit of bacon or fish. Evening brought leftovers warmed again, and if the season was kind, a fresh vegetable, a pear or an apple. In towns, there might be a cooked fish or a meat pie bought at market once or twice a week. In a manor hall, meals came in courses: fish dishes and soups, then roasts and pies, then sweets and cheese. People ate with knives and spoons, but bread could serve as a plate, called a trencher, until the forks later arrived late and spreaded slowly. Let's visit 3 tables in one day. First, a coastal village. At dawn, a family checks the nets. They eat bread with a smear of soft cheese and drink small ale. If the catch is good, they salt some fish and dry some on racks. Noon brings fish stew with leeks and herbs, yet at night they share smoked fish with bread and a few berries from the hedges. Now a town street. A baker's shop opens with hot loaves. A craft worker buys a round loaf and a small pie filled with chopped meat and onions. At midday, his family eats pottage with peas and a ribbon of bacon, plus the fresh bread. In the evening, they finish the pie, dip it in broth, and share a cup of watered wine if they can afford it. Finally, a lord's hall. A cook bastes a roast and sets pies filled with spiced beef. Trays of river fish sit on greens with a mustard sauce. There are dishes sweetened with honey or sugar, colored with saffron for show. Guests eat in order of rank. A steward watches the portions. Leftovers move down the hall to lower tables and then to the servants. Let's clear up a few myths. People did not eat rotten meat covered with spices. Spoiled meat makes you sick, and spices were too costly to waste. Good kitchens used salt, smoke, cool storage, and fast cooking. But no, peasants did not eat only bread and water. Bread and pottage were core, but gardens, cheese, eggs, and sometimes pork or fish rounded out meals. And no, everyone was not drunk all day. Everyday ale was weak. It was a safe drink rather than a party. Safety and cleanliness looked different then. There were no modern food rules, but people were not careless. They knew old meat was dangerous. They washed pots and knives in hot water. Bakers and butchers had guild rules. Towns punished cheating on weights and measures. People used what they had to lower risk: boiling, salting, drying, and cooking food through. Why does any of this matter? Because medieval food was a working system. Bread brought steady energy. Pottage carried plants and protein. Fish filled the gaps on fast days. Herbs and vinegar gave sharp flavors. Spices marked status, but also improved taste. The church calendar, the market, the weather, and your money all decided what you ate. Food was not just survival. It was also rhythm, memory, and community. Picture a year through food. In spring, you taste new greens and eggs. In summer, you bite into fresh fruit and hear fish crackle over a fire. In autumn, you smell smokehouses and see rows of apples drying on racks. In winter, you feel the weight of a salted joint and the comfort of a hot bowl of peas and onions. The table teaches you the calendar, even if you never read a book. In the end, the Middle Ages did not eat a joke. They ate the land and water around them, turned by work and season. A loaf, a pot, a knife, a fire. That was the core. On top of it, markets, feasts, and trade added color and taste. If you sat down with them at noon, you would know their world by what was in the bowl. By the way, thanks for watching. And if this helped you see medieval food clearly, I'd love to have you back. Furthermore, don't forget to comment where you watched from.